Hi everyone, we are here doing a Lean In Pakistan Foundation story. I'm Tars Without, the president and member of Lean In Pakistan Foundation, and we have the incredible Margaret Lobo Fialho here. Hi Margaret,
Hi Tara, how are you?
I'm great. And this today is the story of you. And you are, of course, a member of the Lean In Pakistan Foundation Wellbeing Circle. Can you first introduce yourself, Margaret, and first introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Margaret Lobo Fialho, and I'm a certified American Board and Allen Co. Neuro Linguistic Programming Life Coach. I specialize in timeline therapy. I also specialize in self development. I work with people on the emotional intelligence, public speaking, resilience, personal branding, and yeah, lots more.
Fantastic. So tell us a story of you. So you live in Karachi today. Where were you born?
I was born in Karachi. I'm a proud Pakistani, and I was raised in a very, very diverse environment. I mean, Pakistan is home. Pakistan is completely home. Yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah.
So which hospital were you born in?
Oh, okay. Not ready for this one. I think it was 7 days. I'm not sure why
Okay.
they called it 7 days, but yes, I think it was 7 days. Yes.
Well, when it's
Yeah.
8 days, we have to worry. 7 days is still safe. And
Yes.
so you were born there, and were you born to a large family? Like, give a little detail.
All right. So, both my parents' side are like really, really huge. I have lots of cousins, lots of aunts and uncles. My father was in love with this country. So basically, we stayed back. We did have opportunities to go and, be with the other families. But my father was totally in love, a true patriot of this country. So it was just majorly like the six of us, my four siblings, my parents, and I had my grandparents and an aunt. So it was like hardly a handful of us. So yes, lots of learnings. And I think fast forward, of course, I studied from a convent school. I've had mixed friends. Neighborhood was brilliant. I know where we are in Ramzan right now. I remember when I was younger, we would open, if we had like right now we have Lent and Ramzan happening together. So there would be times where we opened our fast together, or even celebrated Eid and Christmas. And yeah, so childhood was brilliant. Yeah.
So, since you belong to a minority in a group in Pakistan, and you said Lent is overlapping with Ramzan, can
Hmm.
you share for people who may not have had that experience what it's like being in Karachi during Lent, and in what ways it actually feels like Ramzan and Lent to you, who's celebrating Lent as well as a part of the whole Ramzan feel of Pakistan.
I think, if I had to really thank somebody, is my dad, because it's something that he kind of inculcated, growing up. So it was not really like today, as I am with everybody at my workplace, at Lean In, or anybody else, my acquaintances. I don't really look at it as so major, because I feel the respect is mutual. You know what I'm saying? So it's really interesting. Like, for me, I understand that some people are not aware, so they keep asking me, how do you all do it? How long are the hours? So you see, today I look at it like, I'm like, wow, I wish more people were aware. But this is why we are here, of course, to just, for me, I remember my dad and my mom always put down that respecting, each other's world, and where we came from. So yes, in fact, I remember last time in Ramzan, I held a iftar party at my place, and this time I am going to open my fast with my mixed friends, the mixed culture. So yes, it's not much of a difference, to be honest, Tara, because like I said, my childhood was very easy in terms of the understanding and mindset.
So that's fantastic. And what led you to the pharma sector? Because I know that when you joined the Lean In Pakistan Wellbeing Circle, you were
Yeah.
working in the pharma sector.
Oh. Uh, Tara, I've always my start was at the bank, and banking industry is like really really fast, and it's brilliant. I mean, you can make your money there, but there's a lot of time consumption. It's I'm not saying it's bad, but of course, like as I started getting into well-being and mental health, I understood that life. Work-life balance is very 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 important, and I'm not saying that the farmer sector is totally slow, but to some extent they are kind of or they do consider these factors, and I just thought that it was time. I guess for me, I understood that it was time that I gave up that sector, and just kind of taken a back seat in terms to have a better perspective about what I wanted to do in my life. So it was back then when I was in the banking, it was more like I'm comparing myself, and I'm out there and best performer. But over here, when I came to pharma the first time, it was more about, I think it gave me more opportunities for myself. So I was not competing with anybody else.
That's so inspiring. It is. It's just so
Thank you.
inspiring. And if you can talk about how this led you to your interest in neurolinguistic work, how it led to your interest in coaching, how you evolved those areas, and how that all connects back to well-being.
Oh, okay. So I love this question, and I do get I mean, I do get asked about this a lot. I'm a firm believer that everybody has that spark and that X factor. It's just that we are so busy sometimes with just indulging ourselves in things that are not meant for us or that don't serve purpose. I was very young when I was very very interested in communications, in human behavior. So if I sat at a clinic and I read a magazine, I would go towards the communications part, and that kind of led me. Even when I was in the banking sector, when I was in the in the farmer side, I felt communication, I still believe that it is the key. Although it has many other successful factors around it, like resilience and emotional intelligence, but the right communication to understand, to be an active listener. And I know we all live in a world that we want to change people around us, but I think I was firm to change myself first, to do something that was purposeful. And 2015 or 2014 was the twist, was the game changer, where I volunteered for children at TCF, and I found my purpose. And I just thought that life was bigger than than just competing or just being out there. And I just thought that giving back is just so soulful. And it's something that I also kind of unfortunately, we all have our highs and lows. I was bullied for a very very long time in my life, even in my adult to some extent. And so I felt like like today when I talk to people in organizations, and I'm always asking, how do you like your place? And every organization looks fancy today, the platform and everything. But for me today, it's about values. Do people respect each other? Do people talk about mental health at work? Do people take care of each other? Do people so that my past behavior, and I had to stand very firm with it, because to some extent I would say that we're still in that taboo of mental health in Pakistan, and we are progressing, which is the good part. But for me my purpose, part of it is also kind of to break the stereotype, to reach out to people, to be honest about what they want to do with their lives and what's not working. So yes, it started from a very very young age.
So you mentioned bullying,
Sorry.
and you
Sorry.
mentioned bullying,
Hmm.
and you talked about being bullied for a very long time, and then you even mentioned in your adulthood. Can you
Yes.
share a little bit about what that looked like and how it was able to go on for so long, and a little bit of that story? Can you share?
Yes. So you see, at home, like I said, we were just the six of us. So it was a very, very small knitted family. And of course, both my parents, were always coaching us to be strong out there and how to face the world. But of course, when you step outside your home, you meet different people. Um, I would say that. there were lots of, how do I say this, there were so many conflicts. There were inner conflicts whether I had to be really really nice, or there were also kind of conflicts where I had to kind of, make a boundary for myself. So I was always in the middle. I was always I was always very scared to not be liked, or if somebody thought bad of me if I put down my boundaries. And that is a limiting belief that I broke finally in my head after a very very long time in my life, that it's okay that while you put down boundaries around you, because again, when I in neurolinguistics, when I had my values realigned, our self-respect was the top, and it still is the top, and not just for myself but also for the people around me. So I think that when people say kindness is beautiful and everything, it is beautiful. But when I was too kind, it kind of, I was unfortunately eaten up by the wolves. But then, of course, it took me a lot of time to get back. uh, Bullying for me would just be, of course, it would be maybe shaming, body shaming, or recently somebody asked me, how can a person like you be bullied, Margaret? And I said, sometimes even when you know too much, or when you are at that, that level of understanding, or you have that X factor, um, it's unfortunate that it could kind of be uncomfortable for a few other, so yeah. Yeah.
So you spoke a little bit about caring too much what people think. That's
Mm,
listed as one of the biggest life regrets many people have. Making decisions, caring too much what other people think. So, how did you overcome that? Many people die having never overcome that.
mhm. I think that it came to a point where I was totally frustrated with, I was upset with myself, like for example, and like I said, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. Everybody is ace at what they do and everything. But I felt I was not bringing out my best potential. I was lacking behind for these particular reasons. I still feel today that if you are in your own pathway, and if you're really not disturbing or somebody else's progress, or you're doing things on your own terms for yourself, and you're being respectful, then be it, do it. But yes, I do agree with you, it's not an easy pathway. I had to practice a lot today. I can say this very openly. I do have my mentors and coaches and my therapist, and for me, they have to kind of walk the talk, which is why I believe in that. So the people I kind of invested earlier, much earlier, were people who didn't walk the talk. So for me, I had, you know I didn't really have inspiration outside my home apart from my own family. I mean, my family was the biggest inspiration and still is. But I feel like even today when I coach people, you could come for many sessions to me, but until you don't practice it, and the little things like gratitude, or just doing something for yourself and self development. So I really really put my, because I was so tired of the whole pattern. I think we also need to recognize the patterns that we keep saying. I hear people say, why is this happening to us, or why are we meeting the wrong people, or why are we in wrong organizations. I think it's very important to reflect within that, why is this a pattern that we are allowing in our life. Maybe there is something that internally has to change. So yes, that is something I took very very seriously for myself.
So, usually with anything in life, internally you have to make a change.
Yeah.
It's usually
Yeah.
rare that third parties will make a change or third circumstances will make a change. It's usually internal.
True.
You spoke also about feeling a little bit vulnerable when you're kind. You're
Mm.
always kind in when I've known you, but
Hmm.
you were saying now that sometimes you have to be careful where you're kind.
Yeah,
Can you talk a little
absolutely.
bit about that?
Yes. So like, I love this question, thank you. And I've always waited to say this out. Kindness is beautiful, vulnerability is beautiful, and I know people out there, they do bridge rapport, they do make rapport, or they build connections with this. But with my experience, Tara, and my life, that's all I can say right now, is that please ensure that the person that you are being vulnerable with is respecting your privacy. is not kind of using it against you, because the person itself is so vulnerable at that time. And god forbid if that kinds of goes out of proportion, or if that is used against the person, it could make the person more vulnerable. Or like, but today when I coach people, and they come up to me and they tell me reasons why they never really seeked out for help, because unfortunately things were not confidential, or they didn't really they like the feelings were invalidated. So I always feel that yes, be kind, and but I like, you've seen the right me, because the trust that I have in you, Tara, and the people around is massive, because you walk your talk. But I would say that in terms to just be I would say this to everybody, invest your time in people who have respect for your boundaries, or respect for your past, who are like active listeners, who would not judge. People are very scared of judgment, Tara. People everybody is very, very scared of judgment. So if somebody is kind of pushing back, and so I always feel that it's something that they've not kind of built a proper rapport. So yes, I am myself with you, because I know that you don't judge, and the people around you, the kind of institution that you've kept around. So yeah, so I feel like one should, yes, be a little careful, and see how and when they're opening up.
And what has the journey for you in opening up in your own life been?
Oh, Tara, okay. I'm so happy, and I know this would be, this my own clients would also view this. I had a very tough time finding the right kind of help in Pakistan. I won't lie to you, and as I do have a lot of respect for institutions that they're doing their best job and they're out there, and the credibility is strong and everything. But I guess it was unfortunate. The first few tries were really, really unpleasant, as in, for example, judgment, or not being an active listener, or kind of just being gaslighted, uh, and on and on. But yes, eventually, when I believed in my values, that this is what I would want my institution, or my help would, I would want them to have the same values, to have trust, to have integrity, to have things confidential, being an active listener. So that took me time, because towards the towards the middle I did kind of give up. I'm like, oh my god, is this, if this is seeking help? But I stood my ground, like I said, I stood my boundaries. And eventually, of course, then I got in touch with Alan Co, which is Arsalan Larik and Co, and they were amazing. So yes, so I feel like today, anybody in our country, or anybody else around the world, who is in this mental health initiative circle, please, please, take good care of your people. I'm sure they are, definitely, but just a reminder, because once trust is broken with the client or with the person, I don't think people come back, but I kind of gave it a shot again.
Well, that's a very courageous decision you made.
Yes,
And
it is. Yeah.
when you make decisions like these, do you generally make them on your own, or do you consult with a parent? I know you very sadly lost your father earlier, and very sorry for that loss. But you're
Thank you.
also married. You maybe consult with your husband. Are there people you turn to when you make those decisions, or is it always about listening to an inner voice?
I'll be very honest with you, Tara. The one thing that my father, yes, had kind of drilled in our heads were that take chances, take leaps of faith. So even at a point of my in life, when I felt like, oh my God, if this is seeking help, then why should I, But yes, it was a leap of faith, to be honest, and it was a personal decision. But of course, keeping in mind what my father always taught us, that it was okay to. I also believe, I want to say this, I believe in the power of providence. In terms that people, when I work around with, sometimes it's like, we're alone and we have nobody. There is an energy, there is a power that is protecting you and sending the right kind of help. So yes, this was an intuitive decision that I took for myself to seek help, and I am super proud of it.
So you believe in the power of protection.
Providence, as in, yes, protection, that god does send you, like people say, I'm so sad.
Angels.
Yeah, so God sends you the right people, the right institution. You have to have that little belief at least, Yeah.
And are you a very spiritual person?
Yes, very, very much. And I think that's what also keeps me going.
So can you talk a little bit, share a little bit about that?
Tara, just like when my father was also alive, my day started and ended with speaking to both my parents, of course, or seeing them. And similarly, when I wake up in the morning, I have to meditate. I have to meditate maybe twice or thrice a day. I need my me time. This is my most favorite me time. Then, of course, my hobbies. And what I learned in an organization was also mindfulness. So, just I always believe that there's a difference between meditation and mindfulness. Mindfulness is like right now, like I can see you, I can see the screen, my touch, my fingers. um Meditation is more like, where the mind is just exploring. So I do a balance of both, you know so yes. And of course, like I normally don't talk about religion because it's always very, very personal. But yes, Bible reading, my own set of prayers. If I'm stuck in traffic, I'm still praying in my head. If I'm about to start this podcast, or I'm always connecting with God, always. And I think that's what keeps me going. Yeah, yeah. So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful feeling.
And were you always that way, or is it something you found later in life?
I was always not always this way, to be honest. Like I said, it maybe 10 years ago, it was always about I was more about other people. I was more about people, like taking validation from people, or if things didn't work, again, having a very competitive nature, but not in the positive way. It was always about that I had to be out there. But today when I see it, it's more, it's very different. So I'm not trying to sound overconfident, but I'm really, really at peace even if somebody is just taking away that initiative or that project. I mean, of course, it would hurt me for a bit, but I just feel that as long as I'm connected, you know, uh, to my higher purpose and to God, I really, really, I always feel today what didn't work works better. So it took me many years. Of course, I won't lie to you. I remember I was talking to a friend lately, and I said I shopped till I dropped for things that I didn't need. So it was just I lived more for people and more for just impressing. But today, it's a different world for me.
So was that shopping for yourself or for gifts? Was it retail therapy?
It
Was it
was
keeping up with the Joneses?
yeah, all of it. It was all of it. And today, of course, I still kind of shop for my friends or my family. But today when I shop, it's more, I mean, of course, apart from the inflation that we're currently going through, but in connection of what you're mentioning, is that today I'm more mindful. Like, I just don't want to wear something because I want to be the first to wear it and look good in it. So yeah. But I guess things have changed over the years, Tara, quite a bit.
You mean within yourself or because of sustainable and eco fashion being
Not
trendy?
within myself, Tara. I mean, like, sometimes, of course, Facebook gives you memories of what I would say on statuses or on public forums. But today, I think I'm more mindful. I'm more careful. Today, I understand that people are different. Like, I know people say perception is reality. I'm not really sure on that statement. People, of course, it's very real that when you're out there to work, uh, we don't know what people are thinking. you know People have their own challenges, waking up in the morning, or just making things work. So today, I think the whole perception has changed in my head, and it has worked for me.
Okay, wonderful. And where do you see yourself evolving further? What are your goals?
Okay, since you're special, and I know this is a public forum, but um, I see myself working more towards mental health, because it's something that I feel that we still are out to be there. I think there's a lot more work, and not just in organizations, even in schools. I wish people spoke more about mental health. So something that I would want to kind of represent the country, or not even just the country, even the community, to talk more about it, and to have I always feel the home is your safe heaven. So when people say, I get judged by my family or my parents or my kids, and that really, really breaks my heart. So I would want to, work towards that initiative, to kind of have that, that statement where it says charity begins at home. So yeah, that's a hard nut to crack, but I'm working on it.
Okay. And in terms of concrete visions of where you see yourself, like would there be examples?
Corporate visions.
No, I mean rather than
Right.
general holistic visions of where you want to be, are
Mhm.
there any things you specifically want to achieve? Any milestones? Any things that would represent that?
In my previous organization, um I was also leading CSR, corporate social responsibility, and we had a project with the deaf community. And for me it was major, totally major. And when I was out there, I saw that uh, it's a different world. And of course, the people who kind of helped us, the manager and everything, they kind of helped us with the sign language and everything. And I said, this is something that I really want to do, because I felt out of place. So when I see people who are differently abled, I feel they really need, in fact we need more of them, to be better humans, and to kind of take initiatives. So I know there are a few schools who kind of support these initiatives, and my respect to all of them. But I feel there's more of this that I would kind of, a goal that I would like to touch upon.
Okay, wonderful. And have you found a lot of benefit for you in the lean in journey?
Absolutely. Tara, you see, for me, I have a very, I know I don't know if we, of course we do have time, but I want to share something very, very sweet. Can I? It's something to do with my childhood, and in the lean in
Yeah.
circle. Okay, so I was 5 years old, 5 or 6 years old, and my friend Penny, and myself, we were just two of us. So we didn't have a lean in circle, but we had a unicorn club, and it was just the two of us. And in that club, it was just the two of us. We would talk about our aspirations. Like at that time, I wanted to be an air hostess. I wanted to go in movies, or I wanted to become a lawyer. When you're kids, you talk. But as we were building together, we would talk about things like this, which was so vague. But today, when I see that we finally have, circles where women are supporting each other, and literally supporting each other. So for me, it makes my heart so happy. I feel we just don't need the 8th of March. We need every day to support women. So being in a circle with different categories, whether it's wellness, whether it's entrepreneurship, I think it's brilliant. So I always feel like leaning in towards brilliance, and to really, really being out there. One is, when it's so easy to say that we support women, but to really, really support women. So that is brilliance. And I've been very warm, not just been warmly welcomed, but also I have kind of been, um, like I said, like as if I always belonged here. So that makes me very happy.
Wonderful. And although you're part, of course, of the well-being circle, it'd be wonderful if you look at starting and sharing a circle of mental health or vulnerability.
Hmm.
And any of the people watching today can join your circle.
I remember it was, I think this was way back in 2020, during COVID. And we all came live, and we spoke about, we were put into different rooms. We were put into those
Breakout rooms.
yeah, breakup rooms, sorry. And I remember, like, there was no fear. You know what I'm trying to say? Like I said, like for me it was totally different, because I'm waiting for somebody to open up, and then I would open up. So nobody even thinks on that, no, that somebody's going to be judged, or someone's going to undermine somebody's struggle or compare each other's struggle or something of that sort. So that was a time where I decided that I would want to stick around in Lean In, because that is something kind of, that's exactly what I feel is required in today's day and time, to just give that person love in such a way that they are accepted for whatever they have, any kind of struggles. So that is something I felt very, very strongly in Lean In. So yes, big plus for me, Tara.
Wonderful. And in fact, on such a beautiful note, I think that it's very inspiring and probably the best way for us to end today's time. And it's been incredible learning more about you and hearing your story, Margaret.
Thank you, Tara. Really, really happy to be here, really, and thank you so much.
All the best. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.